He is being disloyal.
I,
We all
I,
have
I
to
agree
think
with that. That's true.
Joe Biden is great. Joe Biden is young and dynamic. You tell me that's not a bubble, brother? So, but what I'm trying to explain to both sides is you're both in bubbles. Please, for God's sake, think objectively. And this is the number one request that I would have of people on our side, which is focus on policy. Don't get into this cult of personality. Oh, that's a Democratic leader, or cult of personality. That's Trump. We have to oppose everything Trump is doing. No, wait a minute. What is the policy?
In this clip from Brian Tyler Cohen's channel, Cenk Uygur, the self-appointed king of objective thinking, just got absolutely smoked by Brian Tyler Cohen. In this specific clip, they're talking about Trump, Biden, and how loyalty, or rather the lack of it, is destroying both parties. And as you can imagine, with Cenk being here in his latest drama of what we call here MAGA heel turning, this is going to be a very interesting clip. So without spoiling anything, let's get into it, where I'll be giving you my live, unfiltered take.
And if they say something that we agree with, for God's sake, take yes for an answer. In the middle of Trump, imagine we get a couple of wins. I know what the
You're
great.
not going to get any pushback from me. I agree with that. I would love look if by some miracle we see the minimum wage raise, if we see pro union legislation passed, if we see the anything that happens that I want to see. I'm not going to trash it just by virtue of the fact that it was signed into law by a Republican president. I still like it's the agenda, not the politicians that I'm advocating for, and however we get there is perfectly acceptable to me. But I guess going back to the initial point, the issue I have here is that while even people, yeah, sure, you'll get pilloried by a majority of the party who, of course, wants to see Joe Biden in the strongest position as he heads toward an imminent election with Donald Trump. But that is different than there being zero people, literally none
It's
right now
actually
in the
not
Republican
true,
Party
Brian.
under the Bannon banner or under the Musk banner. Any of those competing factions, nobody will say an ill word of Donald Trump, and nobody ultimately, at the end of the day, has any allegiance to anything other than whatever Donald Trump says.
It is
The Bannon
just
people are not
not
going to
factual.
abandon. The Bannon people are not going to abandon Donald Trump by virtue of any policy position that he has. In the same way that the Elon
You're
people are
totally
not going to abandon
wrong.
him either.
Bannon said that Trump's position on H-1B was wrong. So you're totally counterfactual. So look, guys,
And not a single
Brian,
person will abandon him by virtue of it.
but first of all, his campaign, his second term hasn't even started, and already there's a giant civil war within his followers. You don't want to open your eyes because you're thinking Trump. We all have to hate Trump, and we all have to hate all of them. And so my job is to drive my audience to hate them and to support blindly ridiculous politicians like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom. No, open your eyes. We have to fight for left-wing policies. Policies. Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom didn't give that to us. Joe Biden didn't give that to us.
Finally, some honesty from Cenk. But let's not pretend this is some revolutionary revelation. We've known for years that these so-called progressive leaders talk a big game but deliver nothing. Gavin Newsom, the guy who's turning California into a dystopian theme park, and Karen Bass, who's practically invisible. Both of these aren't exactly champions of the people. And Biden, he's been in politics for 50 years, and suddenly we're supposed to believe he's the savior of progressivism? Give me a break.
So, and I'm not naive enough to think that Trump, out of the goodness of his heart, is going to do left wing policies. We got a maybe a 10 to 15% chance, if we're really good at this, to take a part of his populist base and to get some positive things done. And we fight back on the rest. But we have to stay in the factual world instead of the world we want. And apparently, a lot of the folks on the left want a world where we all hate each other. They hate us because of racism, blah, blah, blah. We hate them because they say they're racism. Oh, great, culture wars. We're at each other's throats. And look at the idiot Republicans now trying to deny California wildfire aid because they say your governors are incompetent. But see, we have to take care of that on our own. And then that's where you fight back against the Republicans. And I've been going crazy these last couple of days, going, all right, then the next time there's a natural disaster in Alabama or Mississippi, you want to talk about incompetent? They rank 49th and 50th in every category. That's it. I'm denying aid to Alabama and Mississippi. Because why do I do that? Because I have some credibility in the right wing now because I am honest. And so when I say, guys, if you deny us aid, we're going to deny you aid. Okay? It at least breaks through. Whereas when you just have the partisan camps and rah, rah Biden, rah, rah Trump, you're just not being factual. You're just trying to rah-rah people. And unfortunately, it's created these giant bubbles. So please wake up. Bannon and Musk are at war. So figure out, hey, who's right, who's wrong about particular issues. And if one of them says something we agree with, as much as we loathe them, and if they can create momentum, Bannon, I'm skeptical, very skeptical about this. But if Bannon could create momentum for increasing corporate taxes, correct answer is yes, and help them fight against Musk.
So now they're teaming up with Steve Bannon? What's next? A progressive Bannon book club? This is the kind of logic that makes people tune out of politics altogether. Cenk's desperation to push his policies has him playing footsie with the very people he spent years demonizing. And Musk, love him or hate him, at least he's building things and shaking up industries. Bannon's just stirring the pot. This is like choosing between a wrecking ball and a dumpster fire. Neither option is great.
If Musk is right about something, help him fight against Bannon. That way we get to have a voice and we get to be a part of the equation. But if you just sit there and go, no, me hate Trump, but which one is Trump? Which one is Trump?
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but it's not that what I'm saying is we hate Trump. It's that what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, there is nothing that Donald Trump could do to push away any of these people, and that when you suggest that your red line, for example, is that they're anti-war, that at the end of the day, nothing he can do is going to push these people away. If we can watch this guy incite an armed insurrection at the U.S. Capitol and have all of these people initially speak out against it, only for them all to ultimately come back home, and there is not a single Republican in good standing in the Republican Party. Liz Cheney is out of the party. Adam Kinzinger is out of the party. Those are the only two people who are willing to speak out. Everybody else has since come back home to Trump. There is nothing he can do. If it's not going to be an armed insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, it's going to push these people away. The notion that a policy decision that he could make is going to have enough weight behind it to finally push these people away. They have shown by virtue of coming back home to him that nothing he can do. I mean, like, we joke about him saying that I can shoot.
He hasn't even started in this term. What you're talking about is true for the past. That is definitely true. Look, I'm the very last person to defend Trump on Trump's terms. I did a loser Donald segment. I literally did 100 of them before the 2016 election. Before this election, we did more Trump madness, 64 of the worst things he's ever done. So I know how dangerous Donald Trump can be. I know what an egomaniac he is.
I mean, trying to drag Trump for his ego as if that's news to anyone. We get it, Trump is an egomaniac, but let's not act like that's some groundbreaking revelation. The man has been front and center in the media for years, and everyone knows his personality is larger than life. What's missing from this constant criticism is an understanding of why that egomania works for him. People don't follow Trump because they think he's humble. They follow him because he's a fighter, because he doesn't back down, and because he's willing to say things that other politicians are way too scared to even whisper. Cenk and others like him keep focusing on Trump's personality as if that's the problem, but they're ignoring the issues that made him popular in the first place. Whether it's economic anxiety, distrust of institutions, or disdain for political elites, Trump tapped into something real. Sure, call him dangerous, but dangerous to whom? To the establishment that's been failing people for decades? Maybe that's why this so-called egomania is seen as a feature, not a bug. But of course, Cenk would rather recycle the same tired talking points about Trump being a narcissist instead of addressing why his base remains so loyal. Here's the thought. If the opposition spent half as much energy fixing the systemic problems Trump capitalized on, we might not even be having this conversation. But hey, let's keep calling him an egomaniac and see how far that gets us.
Right, I'm not challenging you on that. But go on.
Yeah, so I know who I'm dealing with here, but he also likes to be popular. So if we can feed into the direction that makes him more popular, which is passing our laws, our policies, then great. But you're giving up before this term has even begun. We're not looking to get Trump to do like marvelous 85% of Bernie Sanders' policies. That's
yeah.
for Cocoa Puffs. That's never going to happen, right? Yeah. But if we get 15%, that's a lot better off. If we can contain his worst impulses by going and finding allies in the right wing that agree with us, that would be much better in containing his worst impulses instead of driving towards it. And please, look, this is the same for our audience, and we're trying to be honest with everyone. And obviously, of course, we're getting punished for it. You'll look at the comment section here, turncoat binary thinking. If he's criticizing Democrats, that must mean he loves Trump. I'm sick of it. It's just maddening. Please snap out of the hypnosis you guys are all. Are you kidding me on not being able to challenge Trump? First of all, they did challenge Trump. He won. On Biden, it was the most legitimate challenge in history. And everybody said, shut up and fall in line behind the guy who's in obvious mental decline, who's talking about how his uncle was eaten by cannibals. And what did our side do? Everybody said, shut up and fall in line, and objecting to leadership is unacceptable. And by the way, Brian, they'll do it again. They'll put up another corporate robot like Pete Buttigieg or Gavin Newsom in 2028, and they'll tell you, shut up. You're not allowed to disagree. Unity, unity. If you disagree, you're a Republican. We have to pick the worst corporate candidate there is. We have to pick a deeply corrupt establishment figure. Otherwise, that's it. You're in favor of Trump. So forget, if you're on the left and if you're watching this, you're supposed to disobey. We're the left. We're not supposed to fall in line. We're supposed to have interesting, dynamic, different intellectual ideas, and we're supposed to care for everyone. We're not supposed to say we care for everyone except MAGA and half the country, I hate them, and we should never talk to them, and all we should do is yell at them and assume that they're all idiots. That is not a left-wing position. That is not an inclusive position. Please wake up.
Now this is where things get interesting. Cenk is finally admitting that the left's inclusivity has its limits. They'll preach about unity and compassion, but the moment someone wears a MAGA hat, it's game over. This holier-than-thou attitude is exactly why so many people feel alienated. You can't claim to care about everyone while actively hating half the country. That's exactly how you lose elections and alienate people. You don't win hearts and minds by screaming into the void and labeling everyone who disagrees with you as an idiot. This might be a newsflash, but people vote based on how you make them feel, not how loudly you can yell at them. It's like trying to win a debate by flipping the table. You're not convincing anyone, just making a mess.
But I don't. Right? The Democratic politicians have been miserable failures, and not of the Republicans, and not of the country, of us. They never deliver for us.
I don't think that Democrats are I don't think that Democrats are doing that though, and they've proven in office that they're not doing that. When Trump listen, when Trump was ending his first term, every Democrat voted for the CARES Act because they recognized that it would help the American people, even though doing so would give Trump a win. And then, of course, when Republicans tried to pass, when Democrats came into office and tried to pass the American Rescue Plan, it wasn't passed with any support from Republicans. Maybe a few Republicans voted for it, but they didn't do that. And then Democrats came back into office. We have the bipartisan infrastructure law. We have the bipartisan gun safety law. We have all of these benefits conferred to red states, red districts, red areas for the infrastructure law, the CHIPS Act. So Democrats do not just defer blindly to, okay, what can help us politically. They're perfectly content to bring Republicans in if it's going to help them, even if it's voting for legislation that will reflect better on Donald Trump himself. So Democrats aren't just this party where we're going to blindly take whatever wins and lock Republicans out. They've proven by virtue of how they govern that they're not willing to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Cenk Uygur is trying to be the voice of reason while tripping over his own contradictions. Do you think Cenk is right in turning on his progressives or not? Let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.